one more thing on Chronister. This is Chronister's statement from back in 2020, announcing the arrest of Dr. Ronald Howard Brown, pastor of the River at Tampa Bay Church, who intentionally and repeatedly disregarded state and local public health orders, which put his congregation and our community in danger. Chronister noted in a tweet at the time, this is March 2020. We are hoping that this serves as a deterrent, Chronister said during a 2020 news conference. Shame on this pastor, their legal staff, and the leaders of this church for forcing us to do our job. That's not what we wanted to do during a declared state of emergency. So it's actually the pastor's fault for making this sheriff choose to disregard his constitutional duty and instead carry out the orders of Ron DeSantis. Whose fault is it that Chad Chronister did this and does this blow back in Ron's face? I can't see how it doesn't, okay? He's talking about the declared state of emergency. Now he's saying we were just following orders, but whose orders were those? Well, they were rigged to meatballs. They were old bootsies. What else did we call Ron? I miss those days. Rigged D meatball. Rick. Yeah, also Rick. Rick D meatball. I found a video recently. Let me see if I can find it. Of Ron DeSantis pronouncing his name as DeSantis. Ah, yes. It was when I was doing hindsight research. Here's Ron from 2020. He's going to be talking about therapies and vaccines, by the way. And maybe this is a good one to dredge up because I had to hear unrelentingly on X, formerly Twitter, from all of the retards supporting Ron DeSantis that he was like somehow anti-vax or something. Ron was the based and red-pilled savior that Trump could never be when it comes to COVID. So stupid.
Hello, this is Governor Ron DeSantis. In recent days, we've seen more breakthroughs in the fight against COVID-19. Regeneron, a new monoclonal antibody therapy meant for those most vulnerable to COVID, has received its emergency use authorization and is now on its way to hospitals throughout the state. This effectively doubles the supply of Bamlan, Eli Lilly's monoclonal antibody treatment that arrived at hospitals just over a week ago. Like Bamlan, Regeneron will be administered by IV and should be taken shortly after receiving a positive test. Both treatments are meant to keep people out of the hospital. In addition to Bamlan and Regeneron, Eli Lilly just received EUA to use the drug baricitinib to treat hospitalized COVID-19 patients. A clinical study in Europe found that it may enhance survival in patients with severe COVID. And more good news about the vaccine has been coming out. December 10th is the date that the FDA will meet regarding the Pfizer vaccine. And we anticipate the FDA to review Moderna's vaccine shortly thereafter. Importantly, I spoke with the top pharmacists at both CVS and Walgreens involved in Operation Warp Speed yesterday. They assured me that as soon as they have the vaccine in hand, they are ready to deploy to Florida's over 4,000 long-term care facilities to begin vaccinating the residents. Fortunately, more than 3,000 long-term care facilities have already signed up. And our goal will be to provide vaccines to every resident of long-term care facilities throughout the state. And of course, the initial doses of the vaccine is estimated to be 40 million by the end of December nationwide. It's important to know that each vaccine requires the individual to take 2 doses. So 40 million doses will represent the vaccination of approximately 20 million Americans. Now, that obviously is not going to be enough to vaccinate everyone right at the beginning. So there will be priorities set. And in Florida, we are going to set priorities focusing on specifically those most vulnerable elderly residents in long-term care facilities, as well as our frontline healthcare workers who are interacting with vulnerable patients day in and day out. As more vaccine becomes available, we're going to want to get that into the broader senior community first, and then into the broader community at large. But as we anxiously await the vaccine, I think it's important to double down on protecting our most vulnerable, particularly our vulnerable seniors in long-term care facilities. If we can redouble our efforts to protect the most vulnerable until the vaccine is deployed, we'll help safeguard the lives of thousands of Floridians. Accordingly, I've set aside an additional 500,000 rapid tests. So over these next few weeks, all long-term care facilities will be able to test all staff, all visitors, and all contractors. We have all longed for the day when our long-term care residents can return to normal, and that day is finally within our grasp. Thank you all. Happy Thanksgiving, and God bless.
So I got to say, man, Ron DeSantis does not sound like he was an anti-vax warrior. Sorry about that. He does not sound like a COVID truther. He does not sound like a guy that did not restrict the behavior of people in Florida. He just sounds like every other governor during the COVID period. Ron DeSantis, in my estimation, is a regime info op, and he has been the whole time. And Donald Trump preempted that op and ran it against them. He basically took control of Ron and turned Ron around against them because Ron, remember, was advertised as just like Trump without all the problems of Trump. That was a product they created. And then they made Ron look like the good guy during and after COVID so that he could run for president in 2024 after having an overwhelming win in 2022. He had already started his presidential campaign before then, and Donald Trump called it out before the midterms that year. All you have to imagine is that Andrew Gillum would have won the 2018 Florida governorship as he was slated to do until Donald Trump made sure that didn't happen in fake elections. Ron would have still been in Congress. Ron would have been hammering on COVID while in Congress and then would have had a runaway win in the 2022 midterm, maybe over Andrew Gillum. Well, let me see when the Andrew Gillum scandal was. When did the Andrew Gillum scandal break? June 22nd, 2022. How about that? The most perfect possible time in that midterm governor's race. Gillum would have been governor. Gillum would have shut Florida down in the same ways Ron did during COVID. And then Ron would have been the anti-COVID guy against Gillum in 2022, getting to win in overwhelming fashion on his anti-COVID stuff, his anti-woke stuff, and the fact that Gillum had that massive scandal. And everything else would have just played out exactly the same, including Ron's primary run. So you want to tell me that Ron is a good guy? I really, really don't believe that's true. Ron did not do anything to fix Florida's elections. What part of Ron is good? I just don't get it. I really don't get it. The scandal broke in June of 2022, as it was always slated to break. Ron would have been the biggest Republican star in the country if Trump was no longer there. If they had gotten rid of Trump, if the people had turned away from Trump, Ron would have been the biggest Republican star there was. And I would posit to you that Donald Trump ruined that entire narrative back in 2018 by giving Ron that win and making Ron do that ridiculous commercial where he taught his kids how great Trump was. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. People are like, you just hate Ron DeSantis. Why would I hate Ron DeSantis? I hate Ron DeSantis because I think he sucks for all of these reasons. Now, I might be wrong about this, and you might be right that Ron is just so great, but where is his greatness in that case? Where's his greatness? He fights woke. Trump broke woke. Trump supporters broke the wokeness thing. Ron didn't do anything. Woke's not even done in Florida. Gosh, man. People just love the television characters and they can't let go of the television characters. And we see the same thing. The fake elections, these nominations, it's just the television characters doing their television character thing. Normie Republican establishment clowns who want to be taken seriously as not only conservatives, but Trump aligned when Trump does good things. And the rest of the time, they criticize Donald Trump and try to tear down both Trump and MAGA in real ways on behalf of the Uniparty, on behalf of the regime, so that they can then go and call themselves objective and pretend that they're the only ones actually trying to take on the left. They are the left. Neoconservatism is a leftist ideology, and they are neoconservatives, even if they weren't self-identified neoconservatives. Whatever conservatism it is they practice supports the Republican establishment, which is neoconservative. So they are neocons, they are leftists, they are global communists, and they don't even deny the globalism. They hate MAGA, they hate populism, they hate Trump supporters, and they don't care about the people. So, I don't know what, man, people get upset when I do this, but God damn, tell me why I'm wrong. Prove to me that I'm wrong, okay?